Olá, povoado, aqui é a Ana Chica. E bom, hoje eu tô aqui de novo, ainda sobre esse tema de ThinkPad, para fazer outro react com vocês desse vídeo que apareceu e eu fiquei com muita vontade de ver. Porque sempre que aparecia vídeos desses, tipo ThinkPad mais um Linux, e principalmente a distribuição Arch Linux, que é bem comum entre os nerdola. Você quer se exibir para uma pessoa que da área da programação, você coloca lá o Neofet que aparece a logo do Arch, né? É assim que pessoas que usam Linux se amostram, basicamente. E aí eu queria ver esse vídeo aqui com vocês, lá do Building the Ultimate, Building the Ultimate ThinkPad. Perdão aí pelo meu inglês, mas enfim, construindo o supremo ThinkPad, né? E aí é isso, aí eu queria ver aqui com vocês e saber, porque pelo que eu vi, o ThinkPad ele tem muita facilidade com o Linux, né? Tipo, você instalando o ThinkPad, o Linux no ThinkPad, dá pouquíssimo problema, pouquíssimo problema, que geralmente em outros notebooks dá um problema, e principalmente sendo o Arch, que você tem que configurar muita coisa manual, pelo menos falando por experiência própria, eu já tentei instalar não foi nem o Arch, mas foi o Manjaro. E deu vários problemas no meu notebook, no meu Lenovo IdeaPad. E eu tive que tentar resolver na mão. E pessoas, eu não sei, eu não tenho um ThinkPad, mas pessoas que têm um ThinkPad e instalavam Linux dizem que não tem muitos problemas com no que tange a configuração, nem nada do tipo, porque já vem muita coisa já embutida, né? No caso, já facilitada com o ThinkPad, né? E aí é isso. Vamos ver aí.
Current laptop that I've been daily driving for about 3 years now. This is a 13-inch 2012 MacBook Pro with the Retina 1600p
Eita,
display.
peraí. No caso, isso aí é um MacBook, né? Não tem um negocinho vermelho aqui, então é um MacBook.
Specifically, the MacBook Pro
Olha aí,
10,2, and this thing has 8 gigabytes of RAM, an i5-3210M, as well as 256 gigs of storage. So obviously this laptop is getting quite old, and as my workflow has been increasing, it's
Deixa eu colocar aqui em tela cheia.
been getting to the point where I can't even really use this anymore. Before I was running macOS on this, and I'm not much of a fan of macOS, honestly, and also the performance just sucked. It was so slow with macOS on that thing, so I ended up putting Arch Linux on there, and it drastically improved the system performance.
Peraí. No caso, ele colocou um Arch Linux no MacBook, eu não entendi. Realmente não entendi.
And so it was a lot more snappy, a lot more usable, but there's still a lot of things that I would like to do that I just can't. Like, for example, I can't really record my screen without the CPU skyrocketing to 100%,
Eu acho que não é isso não, acho que ele trocou de notebook.
nor can I really watch 1080p.
Ué, mas isso aqui, marca, não consigo ver. Não sei, eu nunca tive um MacBook, eu não sei como é que é exatamente o nome do MacBook, mas o MacBook é bem fininho, né?
YouTube without it stuttering or lagging or doing something stupid. And there's a bunch of other things about this laptop that honestly make it just kind of hard to daily drive. Thing number one, because the entire chassis is made out of aluminum and because it just doesn't have adequate cooling, it gets very hot. This thing sucks to really put on your lap sometimes. In fact, it got so hot that it warped my keyboard. You can kind of see some warping around the left side of the spacebar and in that area. Now, I give this laptop a lot of shit, but there's a couple things I can really give to this laptop. First of all, the screen is amazing. It's a 1610 panel, and the resolution is 2560 by 1600, so that makes this a 2K panel. And the colors look great on this display. It's a really nice display.
Ok, eu não sei qual coisa que ele tá falando exatamente, mas eu acho que isso aqui é o MacBook. Eu realmente tô com medo de estar achando que isso aqui não é. Mas enfim, é isso aí. Eita, por que eu...
Really. And another thing I can give to this machine is the audio, because the built-in speakers are actually pretty decent for a laptop, and this thing has a really nice DAC with absolutely zero noise. It even has a laser coming out of the headphone jack for SPDIF, I presume, which I think is really cool. I'm actually quite a big fan of SPDIF, so it's really nice to see this on a laptop. Oh yeah, and very quickly before I forget, here's another thing that I just hate about this laptop, and that's just upgradability. There is none. Pretty much the only thing you can upgrade in here is the SSD, and even that you need like a very specific Apple type SSD that honestly that just completely it doesn't interest me.
Ele falou algumas coisas boas, mas falou que mesmo assim é paia. Ok.
All. I can't upgrade the RAM, it's completely soldered to the motherboard, and I can't upgrade the CPU because it's also soldered to the motherboard. Thanks, Apple, planned obsolescence. But today it's time to forget all of that and build a nice new laptop.
Eita porra. Olha aí o ThinkPad.
Alright, so I kinda fell for a meme on this one, but hear me out for a second. For about 50 bucks, I went ahead and picked up a ThinkPad T440p, which on
Eu tava vendo que essa parada de ThinkPad, tipo, teve uma galera que me recomendou comprar um ThinkPad mais atual, não sei exatamente o porquê. Não, até entendo porque tem tecnologias melhores, né, provavelmente, mas esses aqui, dessas linhas um pouco mais antigas, tipo T400, eles são um pouco mais baratos no Mercado Livre, você acha eles recondicionados com, tipo, já pré-configurados com, tipo, 16 GB de RAM, 500 de SSD, tudo mais. Aí eu fiquei, putz, será que não vale a pena comprar um desse? Aí, tipo, teve um cara que eu conversei no Reddit sobre isso com ele. E ele disse que valia mais a pena pelas tecnologias atuais. É melhor comprar um mais atual, tipo a linha E14, sei lá, T14, não sei. Enfim, essas linhas mais atuais. E essas aqui, T400 não sei quanto, é mais antigo, por isso. Enfim, mas aí eu fui perguntar, né, qual eles recomendariam comprar e esse cara disse que era legal comprar um mais atual. Eu não sei exatamente quais tecnologias tem, eu acho que eu poderia dar uma olhadinha depois nisso, mas sei lá.
honestly is a great price for this laptop because nowadays everybody and their mother wants one, for reasons I will explain later. But the reason why this one was being sold for so cheap is because it had a few issues. Like, for example, the F3 key was missing, and also the speakers don't work, alright. And I mean, it's dirty, but those are all minor issues that I can very easily fix. So I ordered that and it arrived, and the first thing I noticed how god-awful this damn trackpad was. Actually, I was daily driving it for a little bit before I upgraded the CPU and the rest of the upgrades came in, and that trackpad was frickin' terrible. So I ordered a new one on eBay that is better with physical buttons.
A coisa que eu vi é que até o teclado, essas coisas, você pode trocar com muita facilidade no ThinkPad. Então, trocar esse negocinho, touchpadzinho, realmente não me surpreende. Bicho, no Mercado Livre você acha tudo desse negócio. É DockStation, a DockStation dele, é o teclado, é até esse mamilo vermelho que tem aí no coisa você consegue arrumar, tá ligado? Sei lá. Eita porra,
And yeah, that trackpad is one thing to look out for with these things, because this ThinkPad, well, I mean, this generation of ThinkPads, rather, were the only ones to do this, and they instantly went back because everybody hated it. So a little bit of info about this ThinkPad. This thing shipped to me with Windows 10 Pro, with an i5-4210M clocked at 2.6 GHz, 8 GB of DDR3, and a 60 gig Kingston SSD. Also, quick side note, there are two versions of the T440p, one that comes with a GPU and one that comes without the GPU. Mine doesn't have the GPU, but the GPU that would have came in here, if anybody was wondering, is a GT7
Especificações desse ThinkPad, né?
30M with 1 GB of video memory, which isn't anything really to boast about by any means, but it would be nice to have. But personally, I don't really need it, so I'm not missing out on much. Also, while I was talking, you might have noticed that the CPU is pinned to 100%. This is a fresh install of Windows 10. It's been doing literally nothing. I have no idea what it was doing. It was probably updating in the background or doing something. But if any of you know who I am, you'll know that I don't like Windows. So I instantly put in some more RAM, swapped the 60 gig Kingston drive that was in there for a 256 gig SSD. Then I popped in my trusty Ventoy USB and instantly started installing Arch Linux.
Oh, e agora ele vai colocar o tal Dark Linux.
So I suppose a lot of you might be wondering, alright, why Arch Linux? And for me at least, I like Arch Linux because I like to be able to customize everything that's on my machine with no bundled in bloatware or garbage or anything like that. Also, I know how to use Arch Linux really well. I've been using it for the past, I don't know, 5 years. Also, Linux has been my
Porra, o maluco usa Dark Linux há uns 5 anos.
main operating system for the past 10 years. I've been using it since 2014. So I'm definitely no stranger to a terminal, and I feel very comfortable using Arch Linux. I do not recommend using Arch Linux if you don't have any basic knowledge of Unix or Linux in general. So basically, if you're a dumb
Ok, querido.
ass, don't use it.
Ok, tá falando pra caralho aí, eu só queria ver como é que...
But yeah, I went ahead and installed Arch Linux with Window Maker, and instantly, it was so much faster. Honestly, even though the i5-4210M, the dual-core quad-threaded CPU that's already in this, I probably would have been happy with that as an upgrade, honestly. It was so fast, and I was actually able to do 74910M.
Que porra é essa? Ah, ele vai colocar um processador no ThinkPad? Nem por caralho.
Here's some quick specs for that i7. It's pretty nice, but of course I'm not gonna stop here. I bought a new CPU for this thing, and
Caralho, ele vai upgradear mesmo. Tomar no...
for the CPU, I went ahead and ordered the i7-4910MQ. Here's some quick specs for that i7. This is a Haswell chip, obviously this is 4th generation Intel, and this CPU has 4 cores with 8 threads that's clocked at 2.9 base and has 3.9 turbo. with a 47 watt TDP. And for graphics,
Ok, ele vai começar falando uns bagulho aqui que eu não vou entender bulhufas, processador, que eu realmente não sei muito bem, eu preciso estar um pouco mais antenada nesses bagulho, mas enfim.
with what they have now, but honestly, this CPU is still pretty comparable to a lot of the newer laptop chips. And sure, a lot of the newer laptop chips also upgrade the battery.
Calma.
But honestly, it does not seem to be degrading the battery that much at all. I'm on the standard 6-cell battery, and I still see over 6 hours of battery life when I'm constantly using it. And you can also upgrade the battery. There's a 9-cell battery
Caralho, uma
that's
bateria.
available for this thing as well.
Caralho.
So a lot of people
Caralho, eu não sabia que dava pra fazer coisa de bateria. Poxa, é uma coisa que eu tava pensando. Não que eu pretenda fazer nem nada, porque se eu pegasse um dessa linha mais antiga, essa T440, sei lá, eu poderia fazer esses upgrades, correto? Isso seria muito interessante, não seria não? É. Você compra um notebook desse, obviamente eu queria um estado decente, aí eu fazer esses upgrades, olha só.
think that this is pretty much the end of the line. This is as high as you can go. But what if I told you that you can push this thing even farther? Meet the i7-4980HQ, and the keen-eyed among you might recognize this CPU from being in the 2014 MacBook Pro.
Cara, de verdade, ter esse conhecimento deve ser muito foda. Tipo, simplesmente você pega um notebook antigaço e você vai lá e troca a CPU, troca a bateria, troca o caralho que seja, tá ligado?
But if you are lucky enough, and if you can find one that's a decent price, you can find one with an adapter board that converts it from a BGA, a ball grid array, to a PGA, a pin grid array, which you can fit in the CPU socket of the T440P. The 4980HQ, instead of being clocked at 3.9 GHz, is clocked.
Se eu não me engano, eu posso estar falando uma grande besteira, mas até a tela nesses notebooks você consegue trocar, velho. Se você, obviamente, se você tiver as ferramentas certas para fazer isso e não ficar nenhuma coisinha falhada, né, pra não dar algum problema. Mas até a tela você consegue trocar, bicho.
Clocked at 4 GHz, but it also has Intel Iris Pro graphics, which is actually better than the GPU that comes in the T440P if you get that option, which again is a GeForce GT 730M. But if you want to do that, it will work, just good luck finding one. Now let's really quickly touch on the keyboard. Of course the F3 key is knocked off, but
Ok, já vai começar a
I
trocar.
don't really care about that. The fact that my old MacBook had a backlit keyboard on it, so I went ahead and ordered a backlit keyboard for the T440P as well. And that's another reason why a lot of people like this laptop. This laptop is extremely modular. You can basically swap out every component in this for whatever upgrade you want. And you might make the argument, okay, that's pretty much all ThinkPads, right? And I'd say, yeah, you're pretty much right, but the thing that sets the T440P above any pads, like for example, this.
Caralho, tipo, porra, que foda, bicho, que foda. Atualmente a gente só tem aquela iniciativa que tem essa proposta de tipo, possibilitar você a trocar todas as coisas do notebook e aquela marca Framework, né? Sei lá, acho que é esse o nome da marca. Você consegue trocar tudo e você não precisa de um conhecimento muito robusto de hardware para poder trocar. Mas o ThinkPad é uma coisa mais raiz, por assim dizer. Isso é muito foda, cara. Isso é muito foda. Isso é um conhecimento que eu adoraria ter, mas eu não.
Screen. This screen is pretty shitty. This is the lowest tier screen you can
Cara, ele
get,
vai
but you can
trocar a
just buy
tela,
a new
nem
screen and
fudendo.
install it, and it will work, and it will detect the new screen with the new resolution. Just like that. Some of the T440Ps have a fingerprint reader on the side. You can just replace it and add it in there. Also, don't even get me. These have a fingerprint reader on the side. You can just
Caralho! Até você
replace
pode
it and add it in
simplesmente
there. Also,
substituir.
don't even get me started on how much storage you could shove in this thing. If you look in the inside, not only do you have the SATA port, but in the top left corner you also have mSATA, as well as an entire CD drive you could play with. And if you didn't want the CD drive, you could just take it out and put more storage in it. Another thing that really pushed me to get this laptop is the customized BIOSes you can put on here. You can put Core Boot on it, or you can put Libre Boot on it. Some of you might be asking, why? And for me at least, I like security. I think security is cool. I think it's stupidly funny that I can have a laptop with an encrypted hard drive and a modified BIOS that can
Peraí. É um disco rígido criptografado e uma BIOS
completely
modificada.
gets rid of the Intel management engine, which essentially is a backdoor into your computer and has been there since the Intel Core 2 days. But also, it's not just Intel. AMD has their own equivalent. But I think it's cool that I can just completely modify the BIOS and remove all of that, plus add some extra features into my system that I didn't have before. You can even set up a custom boot screen if you compile it
Caralho.
into your BIOS, which I think is so cool. I do not have the tools to modify my BIOS this time around, but I definitely think I will make a video on that sometime in the future, because that is something that I do want to do. But anyway, enough yapping. Eventually I had a ton of parts come in for this thing, and it's time to get this ThinkPad actually fully upgraded.
Foda demais. Foda. Caralho.
Okay, I've never really done this before, but, you know, I'm assuming it's going to be pretty easy, just because ThinkPads are, you know, notoriously easy to work in. But I'm gonna, like, not break anything. I had a bit of a moment installing the keyboard, because I thought it was like older ThinkPad designs where the keyboard would come out by you unscrewing the screws at the bottom. But actually, no, I was hella wrong. The little bottom part of the keyboard actually slides and then reveals 6 small screws, which I probably should have searched up how to actually take apart the ThinkPad before doing it this way, but that's still super cool. But I also messed up. 2 cores with 4 threads to 4 trackpad all installed. I went and I installed the CPU. Again, going from 2 cores with 4
Caralho, simplesmente o cara tá tirando a porra do teclado do bagulho.
4 threads to 4 cores with 8.
E ele falou que não tem tanto conhecimento. Será que nós, réis mortais, conseguiríamos fazer uma coisa dessa? Eu acho que eu não conseguiria.
8 threads. So I installed that and I got it all up and running. But after I upgraded the CPU, things just weren't working right. Alright, let's see the moment of truth. Let's see if this actually worked or not, or if I broke something. Oh, there's the backlit keyboard.
Ooh la la.
Alright, take 2. I went ahead and plugged in the charger and I removed 1 RAM stick. So let's see if this works. Oh,
Olha só.
yes! Okay, I also cleared the CMOS as well, just in case. So, alright, let's check this out. There we go! i7-4910MQ! Nice! Okay, so I don't know what's wrong with this other stick that was in there.
Acabou enrolando pra caralho, hein?
This right now, so that's definitely why I'm getting that error. There we go, we're in. Oh, you can see all 8 threads here on WM CPU Watch. I swapped in the little...
Caralho, bicho, simplesmente você pode mexer na BIOS do bagulho. Vai se fuder.
Oh yeah, it's doing just
Calma aí, deixa eu ver, porque a internet tá um pouco lenta, guys. A internet tá um pouco merda.
fine. Okay, so I swapped in the little Windows 60 gig SSD that came in here because I'm trying to update the BIOS. It's not working with the other RAM stick in there. It's only working with 1 RAM stick, and that's kind of making me angry. So I figured that I'd go and update the BIOS, and so I went ahead and downloaded the new BIOS that's up here because this one's actually an older version of the BIOS. Yeah.
Eita.
Wow, okay, that was pretty loud. Even, like, using Windows for the smallest tasks, it's so fucking clunky and awful. Update ThinkPad BIOS. I guess I have... The fuck does this mean? Is it charging or is it not? What does it say when I unplug? I have the wrong one. I only have the 45 watt adapters. I don't have a 90 watt. Ah, the plot thickens.
Welcome to W6LLL repeater.
The time is 3:35 a.m. this morning.
So, I
Ele precisava de uma fonte e ele não tinha a fonte pra poder instalar a BIOS. Bacana.
ended up just ordering a 90 watt charger. So the plan is, I'm pretty sure I have to reseat the CPU to get this thing to work, but I'm gonna go ahead and swap back in that 60 gig Kingston SSD so we can boot into Windows and see if we can try. Right now, straight up, the second memory slot just doesn't work. So it's not the mixed memory, it definitely did work when I had the old CPU in there, so thinking I might have to just reseat the CPU if the BIOS update doesn't work, because
Que trabalho da porra, meu amigo.
hopefully just updating the BIOS will actually help it and fix it. Just gonna go right to the downloads and try updating this thing again. Yeah, so speakers definitely work. Make sure the AC adapter is in, yeah. It's in.
Tem um bocado de coisa que ele vai falar aqui que eu não vou entender nada, mas muito foda.
Now we reboot.
Olha só.
Fan
Tá
just
indo.
ramped up to 100%. Oh, it's flashing embedded controller. That's what it's doing. Dude, what? I do not care. How am I using 2.2 gigs at idle? What is going on? Okay, yeah, I'm gonna just shut down this computer and never boot Windows on this thing ever again. And put my Linux back in here. And
Agora ele vai colocar o...
then I'll test the second socket to see if maybe it started working after the BIOS update. Although I highly doubt that it will start working after that, just because I really don't think that was the issue. I think it's probably having something to do with the CPU needing to be reseated or something. There we go. Okay, it's definitely in there. Yep, that's kind of what I figured would happen. It still doesn't work. So let's try reseating the CPU really quick and seeing if that'll make any difference.
Ok.
There we go. I don't see any bent pins or any reason why this is obviously not working. I'll just
Eu acho que isso é a instalação do CPU, né?
reseat it and hope for the best.
Isso é uma CPU que ele tá colocando aí. Eu acho.
Really hoping that did something, because if that didn't do anything, I genuinely have no clue what I'm going to do next. At this point, I'm past my return window for this CPU, so the stick of RAM is still in the second slot. It was the slot that's having issues. I'm gonna try it again now. Oh, yes, okay. I'm glad that's all I needed to do. Okay, I'm gonna
Coisa boa, deu certo.
go put in that other stick of RAM then, and then we're fully back. I have the machine fully built.
Ah, agora ele colocou também.
Okay, that worked. Yeah, it just boots to the...
E a memória RAM, né?
It works now. We have 16
Eita,
gigs
porra.
of RAM. Isn't that great? Alright, so remember when we were on Windows and how it was using like 2.5 gigs of RAM at idle? Well, right here we're sitting at idle and we have some things open.
Agora o Arc rodando lisíssimo.
Like we got this terminal open, we got XOS view here, we got a bunch of dock apps running, but we're using 500 megabytes of RAM. And 205 of that is being used for cache. So I don't know who you are, I don't care if you hate Linux or not, but you gotta admit, that's pretty impressive. Alright, so with everything fully finished, let's try playing some games on this. Okay, I don't have a whole lot of games installed on here, but there's a few I want to try. Okay, let's just start a local match. We'll do Assault. I like Assault. Now this game I'm expecting to run just fine. You know, this CS 1.6, anybody
Ah, ele vai jogar aí, do nada.
that knows the game, it's known for running on potato hardware. I also
Roda liso, né?
plugged into an external mouse and keyboard, but yeah, I don't have any of my binds, but yeah, it is here. Hold on.
Tá travando, né?
There we go. Yeah, this is smooth 100 FPS the entire time. It's not like stuttering or doing anything stupid. You know, my last laptop, it couldn't even run this. So yeah, this is pretty nice. Granted, this is a single player server. There's nobody else in this lobby. Let me try joining something that's...
Caralho. Eu não sei se esse jogo é muito pesado ou se ele é leve, só que no antigo. Acho que é isso que ele falou, né? Mas me parece um jogo meio antigo, não sei.
multiplayer and see if I can maybe bring down the frames a little bit. Yeah, let's see if I can find a server. A whole lot of issues, especially because, you know, it's a game from 04. But yeah, well, we'll see. Let's run the video stress test and then we'll get in game after that. Hey, you know what? That's some good frames. That's some good FPS right there. But yeah, no, it's running great. Yeah, look at that. 202 FPS. Average.
Tá sempre em 100 FPS, né?
Really hard. Internet not
Personagem de anime do nada.
the best, but you know, it's kind of nice.
Parkour.
This is chill. I could totally just play this. But yeah, no, FPS not bad. Running on, you know, low settings, and I mean, it feels fine. I could play this. This laptop is a lot more capable than I thought it would be for gaming, quite honestly. I've never had a good laptop, or like a decent laptop, and so very popular.
Ok.
Suck. What?
Segundo as informações dele, tá rodando em 100 FPS. Eu não consigo ver exatamente se está rodando, porque eu sou meio cega, mas deve estar, eu acredito nele.
How much did I hit him for? Okay, so I killed that guy. Just the other, I don't know, I'm just blind or something. I didn't see the other guy. You suck! You suck! I suck. Remember when I was younger, I used to play like nothing but Day of Defeat. Okay, you fucking camp. Is this even a real server? I mean, they play like real people, but it feels like no one's talking. Usually when there's servers that are this active, a lot of people are talking.
Caralho, matou todo
Oh
mundo.
my god. Holy.
Tá, porra.
Alright, that's probably enough for this game. Alright, that's cool. That was a fully populated server too. That was pretty fun, but at least for now it's the end of the video. So thank you very much for watching this kind of chaotic video. Firstly, I want to say thank you to everybody that's been supporting me on Patreon. It really does mean a lot.
Cara.
And if you would like to become a Patreon member, a link will be down in the description. Projects coming out.
Enfim, é uma coisa que é muito foda, bicho. Não tem como, o ThinkPad é muito foda. Muito, muito foda. E é isso, eu só queria ver esse Caba montando. Eu não sabia que ele ia fazer esse negócio de, tipo, deitar e colocar um monte de coisa no ThinkPad antigo. para melhorar e deixar a performance dele desse jeito aí. Imaginei que ele só ia mesmo, tipo, comprar um notebook pede qualquer, configurações boas e ia testar e mostrar que é muito bom. Mas é muito foda isso, de verdade, muito foda saber que você pode até trocar a tela do ThinkPad, bicho, vai se fuder, muito foda. Enfim, se você quiser apoiar o canal aí, a gente já tá quase chegando nos 900 inscritos. Segue aí e também comenta várias vezes para poder o vídeo engajar um pouco mais, porque chegando nos 1000 inscritos eu consigo monetizar aqui o perfil e vai me ajudar a financiar vários projetos e começar a fazer várias coisas e trazer aqui para vocês. Então, caso você queira e possa fazer isso, é só comentar aí várias vezes que ajuda bastante o canal. É isso, valeu e até o próximo vídeo. Tchau!